Welcome to another video by PC Squared. Today we're going to look at files and PHP. Files enable you to store data long term compared to just in a variable where you're storing it while the program's running, so it's a permanent solution. An example is you can have it to score the top results in a game. You could store in the files the next time you came to your program, the top score would still be there. So you can store it and use by another program, you can store large amounts of data, and you can easily update and access that data. Files usually collect a collection of records, and so each record is information about one entity. So an example is you can record information about a booking system, and you can record names, phone numbers, and data. So for example, I can record Fred, his phone number, and the date he booked, and another one for John, his phone number and date they booked. Each one is separated by a comma, and every record's on a new line. There's two types of files, random access and sequential. We're going to focus on sequential files, and we'll look at random access in another video. In sequential files, your file is set up to either read from the data or to write to the data. So when you're reading from the data, the first bit of data is added to the last piece of data. The file is created as a text file, and you can open and view it in a text editor, so you can actually see the data you put in there. The end of the data is signified by an end of file character, EOF, and that's used to recognize when the data has ended in the file. In sequential files, you can either open it to read or to write. The file must read one character or line at a time, and from the beginning of the file until the end of the data is found. In a sequential file, you can only have data added to the end of an existing file, so you can't add it into the middle. Here's an example of PHP code. So let's look at some of the major aspects. First thing is we're going to put the name of the text file we're dealing with, and we're going to put that in a local variable. What we're then going to do is use this function called fopen to, in this case, read from that data file. So we're going to take some data from that existing text file, and we're going to do something with it. And what we've got here is a while loop, and we're going to loop around this while loop until we reach the end of file. So it's saying end of file. If it's not the end of file, we're going to keep reading through here. As soon as we get to the end of file character, we're going to stop this loop. What we then do is we're going to use a function called fread that reads, in this case, one character, or 1 byte, which is 1 character. And we're going to put that into this variable, and then we're going to display it to the screen. Once we've read all the files and printed them out, we're going to then close the file. When you open the file, there's a couple of things you can do with it in terms of reading. So the main ones we're going to use is reading from the file, and it starts by pointing at the beginning of the file, and we're going to write to the file, which opens the file to for writing only, and if it doesn't exist, it creates it. Otherwise, it points to the end of the file. Some of the major functions, we've got fopen, which opens the file, ready to either read or write. We can end of file, which checks to see if you've read the end of file character. That's going to be true or false. Fread reads how many characters, and you can replace that one with whatever you like, however many numbers, including later on you can replace that with the file size function, which will actually return the size of the file, and thus you can read the whole file in one go. You can fwrite, and lastly you can close the file. Some hints and tips in terms of files: you can add a new line to the end of file, so like end of line character, by using these symbols /r/n. So we're going to write to this case nf is the file name, and we're going to write to it these symbols, and that will then put the next thing you write on the new line. Also, you can write multiple bits of data to the file at the same time by separating that data with a full stop. So in this case, again, we're writing to the same file, and we're going to write what's in this variable called bg, and we're going to add to it after it /r/m, which will then put an end of line character in your file, so the next time you write to it, it will be on a new line. That's it for today's lesson. We're going to look at an example of PHP code in the next lesson. Thank you.